Hey guys, welcome to our Seeds Storyteller Series with my sister Marley Hutchison. It's kind of cool. Normally we come virtually with my dear friends, and Marley's in my neighborhood, so we're sitting together in my house on a 18-degree Colorado day. So welcome wherever you're coming to us from in the world. We're so glad you're with us. And before we get to Marley and her story, I just want to make sure that y'all know what this is. For those that it's your first time, we're so glad you're here. We believe there are no accidents. And if you're with us, it's because it's the stuff of destiny. And the purpose of this live is to come together and share amazing friends of mine from around the world who are up to some incredible things, and they're always different, always unique, because we each are. And the purpose of the Seeds Storyteller Series is to connect you, to inspire you, to encourage you in whatever it is that you are up to, whatever season you find yourself in, whether on the high of the high or the low of the lows. We believe that in this circle, in this really incredible, keeping it real sort of story conversation, we really find our next steps. We find our connection. We find our sense of why. And I just believe that we find that together. So thank you for joining. Thanks. And my name is Sarah Davison-Tracy. I've written 2 books this year, Live Ablaze and Soulfully Ablaze. I'm the founder of Seeds of Exchange, and Seeds of Exchange is just this. It's a community of people committed to use our gifts and use our whys to light up the world and make a difference together. And the world is calling for us to show up and to do our thing, because there's a lot of beauty in the world and there's a lot of pain. And we need to rise, and we need to light up. So that's what we're here for. So welcome. So in a minute, we're going to get to Marley and her story, which is such an honor and such a treat for all of us to be able to hear. But before we do, we kind of have this thing that we try to start every single one of our meetings or community gatherings with, because our world is so busy. So we call this a place of pause. And I am going to read an excerpt of one of the places of pause. I have these places of pause in my books because I need them so much to get through my life and to really find that sense of direction and deep peace in the clamor of the world and of my life. And whether that's as a mama or as a friend or doing the work that I do in the world, I just need to catch my breath. So we're just going to take 30 seconds and catch our breath. So wherever you find yourself, and again, some of you are coming to us from halfway around the world and it's your evening. So if that's you, good evening. And to the rest of us in this neck of the woods, good morning. And may this speak and meet and bring a little bit of peace to you right now. So we start with being still. And I invite you to close your eyes and settle in. If you're not driving, close your eyes and settle into your seat and just breathe. Sometimes that's all we need, is just a reminder to take some deep breaths. Whether you know it or not, this act alone is incredibly, it's a big gift to your body and your mind and your spirit. So as I read this little meditation, just keep breathing deep. I wonder, what do you most need in your heart, in your body, in your soul at this moment? You don't need to know what it is. You may just feel an ache or be worn out. or happily content to sit down for a moment. If there are a flurry of thoughts, let them flurry off. Bid them farewell for now. Here, just be. Be and breathe. So just take another deep breath. And return to the being and breathing when you can today. And welcome again, if you're just joining, to the Seeds Storyteller Series, where we get to talk with amazing sisters and brothers from around the world. And my sister today is Marley Hutchison. And I'm going to just read a tiny little snippet of about her, and then she's just going to take it from there, and we're going to go on an awesome ride with Miss Marley. So Marley's mission in life is to break through social norms and create a better quality of life for many on our planet. And boy, she does. It started when she lived abroad as a 17-year-old in Israel, but it did not stop there. Today, she's going to share stories, maybe of dancing with mamas in Kenya, and elephant epiphanies about tribe that profoundly changed her. We may talk a bit about her Nepal trek tale, 150 miles in 11 days. She has a diploma in international humanitarian assistance and is currently working as a development coordinator for HEART, specifically with the Sponsor a Mom campaign. So, in the midst of all the amazingness of Marley, we are going to talk about some of the things that are hard, because this work is not easy. Mm-hmm. And we invite you, as we talk, whether it's like in an inspiring moment where you're like, wow, my heart is beating fast, my heart is racing, this is so exciting and amazing, pay attention. We want this to be like something that draws you in, not as a spectator. Join the conversation. Please comment, please like, please emoji away, please share what you disagree with. And please look for the treasure hunt, the threads of your story in Marley's. So my girl, thank you for joining. Will you tell us a bit about HEART and where that work is rooted? And
absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
So HEART stands for Health Education Africa Resource Team. Mm-hmm. They're located in Kenya. They work in 8 different counties with, I want to say, 13 centers. I was trying to count last night, and I know that there's at least 2 in one area, and there's numerous throughout the country. Mm-hmm. And they have a couple different programs underneath their umbrella, but specifically what Sponsor a Mom is trying to do is work within the Women's Empowerment Project. And so to be enrolled in that program, the women have to be widows. They have to have at least 2 children within their care. Most of them have more. They're diagnosed and identified with HIV and or AIDS. And most of them are really sick when they're identified and in the program. So it's kind of what the criteria that are umbrellaed under. And then once they're in the program, they go through a stabilization phase where they get put on their antiretrovirals. All their kids' school fees are paid, so their kids are in school. And then once they're stable and able to start taking classes, they have a trade that they learn so that they can start to thrive through their status. So it's been an incredible opportunity to work with the ladies and just to see the amount of joy that they have in their daily basis.
That's awesome. Oh, and please note, y'all, that we have some really cool links included in the write-up of this live. So please go in. There's websites. There's some really amazing YouTube videos that Marley shared with us. So if you're excited and you want to go down a HEART or Marley kind of treasure hunt, there's a lot of cool things that you can look into. Will you specifically talk about the Sponsor a Mom piece of the work?
Absolutely. So to date, there's been over 500 women who have graduated from the program, which is representative of over 2,000 orphans. So when I personally speak about HEART and the work that they're doing, I always say it's orphan prevention. if you tunnel into like work in Africa, there's a lot of exploitive information that's out there. And so one of the things that I specifically appreciate about Heart and the work that they do is that it's more focusing on the thriving stories and really changing women's lives. Yeah, it's not getting stuck in the sadness. It's more like, how do we overcome it?
Can you give a little context to us on why Heart is why it's needed in Kenya, in this part of the world, and what's kind of going on in the community there?
So with Kenya specifically, there's about a 70% unemployment rate. And so it's really hard for people to even get jobs. And that number will vary depending on your source. So it's like 50 to 70%. And so when you think about somebody being identified with HIV or AIDS, there's usually a huge stigma around that. And then with most of the population being younger, they're definitely on the younger demographic. When you think about somebody in their 20s and 30s and economic opportunity, it's not there.
Yeah.
And so when you have all of those factors interplaying, it's like this really beautiful interconnected web. And then you have your HIV or AIDS status on top of that, it's really hard to find work and or provide for your children. And so a lot of people feel destitute. And so when they're first identified, it gives them this flicker of hope, which is what the film is called if you search for Sponsor Mom. And so it kind of goes into that, like a lot of people's why, but also when there's a flicker of hope that you hold on to, it's also this really beautiful piece of a promise of tomorrow and what can happen if you just like keep going.
Yeah. Awesome. So let's back up a little, Marley, and talk about what are some of the things in your life as you look back that kind of led you to doing this work, which I know is one part of the story of Marley. Kind of like, tell us your why and a few things that led you to that why.
Sure. So my why is honestly been figured out by the closed doors, which is a little bit opposite of what most people will think. So when I was 17 and living abroad, I wanted to be a doctor and work in trauma triage, specifically in Hutchison Hospital, and had moved to Israel at 17 and started studying abroad in an OPA, so an intensive language course, and learned Hebrew within 3.5 months.
Wow.
And then, had the grand epiphany of a 17-year-old that med school is really hard. And to try to take med school in Hebrew, which you're just learning, is maybe not the brightest idea. And so it was kind of through trial and error, and that I decided that if I was going to go to med school, I'd come back to the US and be here. And so then I just got to travel and be with friends. And, one of my friends and I hitchhiked across the northern part of Israel and slept on picnic tables. And then 2 months later is where the Katyusha rockets hit. And so I think the beauty of being young and naive is that you're naive. And so you don't quite know better. But I got to experience a lot in that way.
Yeah.
So from that experience, I wanted to work with people. I knew that's always been a huge part of my heart. But I didn't necessarily know what that would look like. And so I came back and ended up in massage school. And so I've been a practicing massage therapist for over a decade. And I have a bunch of different specialties that kind of range depending on what's needed. But I went into trauma touch therapy, so specifically working with people who have experienced trauma in their life. And then that wasn't enough. And so it's always been like this quest for more. Went back to try to do med school. That door got shut pretty quickly and ended up in more of a humanitarian degree. So with public health and behavioral psychology, and knew that I wanted to work with people. And so the more that I tried to push the medical side of things, the more that those doors kept getting closed and closed. But that led me to work at the laboratory to combat human trafficking. And so I got to be in that arena for a while with amazing women who are doing incredible work there. And so then working with the International Medical Relief, organizing medical missions around the world, and then landed to where I am now. So
amazing.
It's been a journey, to say the least. But all of those keeps coming to this place of like working with my hands and heart and to really create a difference in the world and what that may be.
I love that you mentioned how it's about the direction came from the closed doors.
Yeah.
That's such good news, because in my life there have been seasons where it felt like there's more closed doors than open ones.
Absolutely.
And it's so wise to see those as part of the
Mm-hmm.
direction and discernment for it all.
Yeah.
Okay, so the medical mission, organizing the medical missions, is that how you ended up in Nepal on the 150-mile
Mm-hmm.
trek? Okay, will you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes.
And the moment on the top of a mountaintop that was a game-changing one for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So some of my team that I was with in Nepal might be watching this. So just a shout out to you guys as well, because couldn't have done it without you. So I used to work for an organization and specifically organizing medical trips that would go into underserved areas, making sure that anybody we reached didn't have normal access to healthcare. So they were all over the world, and there was a range of like 38 trips per year. And so I got to, after working there for 6 months, I got to kind of choose what trip I wanted to be a part of. And there was this trekking trip to Manaslu, which is known as the Spirit Mountain in Nepal. And that kind of like piqued my interest the most. Like, not only is it really hard, but people need the care, and what an incredible opportunity to hike in Nepal. So we all set off, and I had trained so hard for the trip, just with the community and running, and luckily we live at altitude, so that was on my side for sure. Yeah. But we set off on this trek, and a couple of people didn't make it past the first 2 days for their own reasons. And being the co-team lead, it was really hard for me as well, because it's just like flipping where I usually am in group dynamics. So we were just trekking, and we would like hike really long during the day, and then do a medical clinic in that afternoon, and usually like sleep that night, and then hike the entire next day. So it was 11 days and 150 miles total. But we reached this point, and when we started out, we didn't know if the pass would be open or not. That was kind of like always up in the air. And so as we tread closer and closer, and our guides kept watching, we're like, I don't know if you'll make it. And so successfully, only one team had made it over the pass by the time we got to the point where we had to choose.
Wow.
And so when we all decided that wasn't happening, see, I still get emotional about it.
Oh,
good. Oh, Kleenex, yay. Experiencing that heartbreak was just, it's so intense, of like the things that you trained for, the things that you worked for, and like you're doing what you're doing, and you should be super elated, and all of these things are happening, but then it's like this incredible letdown. Mm-hmm. But I look at movies like Meru, and I like listen to people's trekking stories, and like that moment of the turnaround is always so hard. Yeah. But it's also this really beautiful opportunity to not only look at what you've done so far. So for us, being able to do the medical clinics along the way was amazing. The next day we set up a clinic, and we were able to see, I forget right now, but I want to say over like 200 people that next day, just like in. And so our wonderful, wonderful porters ran to villages once we decided that we weren't going to be able to continue, and said, like, kind of gave them the call of like, everybody who wants to be like, come in, this is the day that we're doing this clinic, there's been a change of plans. And so it was really an amazing experience to see everybody rally around it and have that shift. My team was incredible. We had our moments of like the tears and the breakdown, of course. And then the next day, everybody just put a smile on their face and did what they needed to do. Mm-hmm. And so, so it was hard and good. And then the rest of the way down, we just got to really bond together and create this other amazing story on the other end of it.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing. So Marley and I talk a lot, and we talk in our community about, the moments in life where there's that gold and that purpose and the pain. Mm-hmm. Like in the being turned away from being able to go where you had been training and planning to go, open this door for 200 people to get care that may not have otherwise had it. It's just, it always is helpful for me, especially if I'm in the place of pain where I don't yet see the gold or see the see the purpose yet. So how about will you speak to that, Marley? Because Marley is one of like these, she's a just wise, you are a wise soul sister, and she teaches me much about just looking for the threads of deep insight and wisdom in life. And in that, we were talking as we were preparing for this conversation about some of the challenges in life, having this great gift. And you had talked about a time in, was it Switzerland? Can you talk about that? Because we really want to make sure that in the midst of this conversation, that it's not like a Pollyanna conversation, you know, or just talking about the Herculean epic moments without, you know, the really gut wrenching hard ones. So will you tell us about one of those for you, which I think was in Switzerland, and what was going on there? And
so last year I had this amazing opportunity to travel even more than I do. And I was in over 10 countries within 1 year. And so, which is some people that sounds super glamorous, and I thought it was too. I thought like, oh, I can do all these things. And then I finally got to like this, what was supposed to be like this epic moment, like crescendo moment. And I'm living in a castle in Geneva and studying to finish my international diploma in humanitarian assistance, surrounded by incredible human beings who are doing amazing work in the world. And they're all over the place right now. Some are in Syria, some are in Uganda. One is about to be deployed to work with refugees. And so I was just so honored to be amongst them. And not only that, but Switzerland is a beautiful country, but I personally found it to be incredibly isolating. And in my life, I'm so blessed with a beautiful tribe of people who hold that safety net pretty firm for me a lot of the time. And just to find myself there without a heartbeat next to me in my bedroom. I have my husband and my dog who are usually there most nights. And so to not have them and to not have my tribe around me was really difficult. And so I was not only going through like this really rigorous program, but also just felt so alone and silly, you know, like I'm living in a castle in Switzerland, like life can't really be that bad. But then again, like, you know, just super breakdown tears of like the crocodile tears that are not pretty and just kind of like being broken down, but also broken open at the same time, and understanding like that stress process. We can't grow until you have those moments of disease and what's really taking place like within your own body and your psyche. And so, you know, asking for help when needed, but also being able to be a little bit uncomfortable with my own spirit. I think, and just finding the stillness in that. I also live an incredibly fast-paced life. And so sometimes those moments of being stagnant and still are the hardest, but they're also the most enlightening. And so Switzerland was difficult. But I had a friend fly in at the very end of my trip, and we laughed more that night than in months. And so that was just super.
The very
healing.
night of your breakdown?
No, a couple of days later, like
in.
at the end of the program. So I like made it through this program. Graduation happened. She was there that night for graduation, which was incredibly special. And then we got to travel up north. So her presence there and just her heartbeat and kind of being my quiet cheerleader in the corner was just so incredibly rejuvenating in a way that, you know, I had to have like that deep, dark moment, but then also just like there was light. There's light that always pierces through in those times.
Yeah. Okay, before we wrap up, I've got you were talking about tribe and isolation in Switzerland. And it makes me think of the elephant tribe story. Will you share that?
Yeah.
I love that one.
So for all the ladies who are out there and listening, you are definitely a part of this story. I even have elephants on that are made by the ladies in Kenya. So There is, so in elephant behavior, there are a group of the mama elephants who, when a mother is birthing her calf, they surround her in this huge circle and with their butts towards the mama birthing, but their trunks out towards the outside world. And they trumpet and they make a really loud noises so that no predators will come in and get the young calf that's being born. And so typically you'll only see this behavior 2 different times. So one is if a mama is birthing her calf, and the other is if they're under attack. And so it's kind of this call for women to surround each other and lift up our sisters. So if like one of us is going through a hard time, it's our job to surround them and trumpet and make a big sound and ward off the predator so that they can not only go through their process, but also feel supported. And so I have my very tight-knit group of friends who I call my elephant tribe, and couldn't do the work that I do without them. They are a part of my daily. And so it's a really beautiful story in just how we can continue to lift each other up and be united.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful story.
It's great.
So actually, y'all, that is how we'll move into our wrap up. And that is that, what is it in your story right now? How do you need to be surrounded? And do you have that sense of tribe? And if you don't, I don't ask that lightly, because that can be a hard place and kind of the isolating, just hard kind of experience to feel alone. But if that is the case, I'm just wondering if that could be your nudge to gather. Maybe it's not a circle yet. Maybe it's one person to loop into your story, to loop into the pain, to loop into whatever is hard. So you're not going it alone, because I don't believe anyone is strong enough to go life alone, and especially if it's in a hard moment. And giving birth, I mean, that's a beautiful, life-giving, creative act, but even like the epic moments, I don't think we're meant to go alone, or to rise alone. So, and if you feel, we always ask this, if there's any way Marley and I in this community can love on you, support you, send some prayers and some good juju your way, please comment. If it's a public sort of thing, please comment below. And if not, please private message me, and I will commit, and with your permission, share with Marley and other soul sister, to really hold you close in our daily kind of prayer and meditation, because there is some great power there. The other wonder and invitation is to invite you to really think for a moment and consider in that like deep, soulful way what the message, whether it was one thing or a whole handful, and the amazing bits that Marley shared, just that drew you in, that made a knot in your stomach, that brought tears to your eyes, that made your heart beat fast, whatever it is. What do you see as clues for your story today, like right here and now? I mean, there's a lot that's unknown in life, a lot that's confusing, but perhaps this is a little light in your life of what, of a next step. Maybe it's not like the whole path, but maybe a step. And if you have that, please share with us. Please share with a live human being person that can remind you and ask you and say, hey, how's that going? Just because we need that so much. We need it like air. Yeah, so those are the invitations. And if I would so welcome you to go on a fun vortex, Marley vortex, and all of the details we have in the write-up of the videos and the websites, and find her on social media and loop in with her, because she's an incredibly extraordinary human being. And she's doing all kinds of other amazing things that would be fun to keep you in the loop on as well. And I know she would love to be in your loop. So loop in, okay? And then Marley, would you, what's like one last thing, little seed that you would want to drop of a story or encouragement to our peeps before we sign off?
Oh, only one.
Only one.
I would just not only encourage people to think outside of the box that we place ourselves in a lot of the time. And I feel like I personally get so wrapped up in a lot of fear stories that don't need to be there. And so I think when we start to shed those layers and the old programming that we no longer need, or it's no longer of service, that a lot of beauty can come of that. And just, when I close my eyes and I meditate, it's always about the joyful moments and the smiles of the faces that I see all around the world. And that's what really keeps me going and doing the work that I do. It's just really, if I can put a smile on one person's face every day, then I count that as a win. And so it makes me so happy.
Yeah. You do that. That is for sure. Thank you for joining. Thank you all for joining. And just a reminder that you're loved, you matter, you belong, we belong to each other. And let's stand tall together and light up the world. So love you guys. Until next time.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for watching.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Bye.